The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Chaotic Product Flow Management Solutions, Primary Food Handling with Direct Contact Automation and Artificial Intelligence. The presentation portion of the webinar will last approximately 30 minutes, followed by 10 minutes of Q&A. Our presenters are Harley Green and Heath Clifton. Harley Green is the Strategic Business Director at Soft Robotics. In his role, Harley is responsible for supporting the organization's strategic direction and identifying and capturing new business in the primary food and consumer packaged goods automation industry. With more than 15 years in the automation industry, Harley has diverse functional expertise with proven ability to quickly analyze and develop strategies to grow the business in multiple complex markets. Heath Clifton serves as the Director of Automation and Controls at Insight Solutions. He joined Insight 4 years ago and has 16 years of work experience with robotics, controls, and automation. He has extensive experience in project planning, integration, implementation, and maintenance. Heath also works closely with the Insight sales team to develop applications designed for specific operational objectives. Thank you, Harley and Heath, for joining us. Today's presentation will provide a brief overview of the food processing climate and then proceed to what solutions are available for managing chaotic flow. Then Harley and Heath will discuss some successful solutions currently in operation. Finally, we will have a Q&A period. If at any time during our presentations you have a question, please submit via the Questions tab in your GoToWebinar toolbar, and we will respond at the end of the presentation. Or, if we do not get to your question, Harley and Heath will respond to you directly via email. We will also have 3 polling questions to help facilitate discussion. You will be notified when a polling question is made available. With that, let's begin. Harley?
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate everyone being here today. So, sort of want to start things off talking about, why the food industry is sort of having a challenge breaking its dependency on labor that has really been in high supply pre-pandemic, or I guess in waning supply, but still readily available. I think there's a number of different factors that have played into this recently. Number one is skyrocketing demand, right? We sort of saw throughout the pandemic where maybe people's eating habits change a little bit. People were buying more, I'll say, red meat and higher value products. And now that we are sort of heading into I'll say, slight recession, we're just seeing people's demand shift, right? It's moving away from some of those higher value food products, and it's really shifting into more of the snack foods and prepared foods category. But the demand is still increasing. It's never actually decreasing. Now, you talk about what did the pandemic ultimately do to the food supply chain? Well, it obviously had a whole bunch of different challenges, both in the processing and production of food products, but you sort of couple that with the Food Safety Modernization Act that was really intended to make food safer for consumers. You now have that is, driving a need to have additional expertise within your facility when you are battling getting people into your facility already due to sickness, due to the environment's not being great, and really it's just been this sort of whirlwind effect where the common theme that I've seen is all these things play into there's a reduced access to labor. And that's not only just getting labor in the door, but also retaining labor. And as we as consumers continue to eat more, it obviously just puts a lot of strain on the food supply chain. I guess with that, Heath, what are you seeing that's driving the need for customers to automate in the food industry? And specifically, when you talk to customers and you hear about labor challenges, what are they saying?
Thanks, Harley. Yeah, so kind of like a lot of the points you touched on there, our customers are having challenges, getting labor. The labor they're getting is inexperienced labor, maybe the younger generation of people that have never worked in any type of manufacturing. The people that do have experience can really, just demand the rate or demand where they want to go, as they jump around. So that's really what's kind of driven automation and a lot of the food processing that we've seen. As you touched on, the demand is never going down. It's only going up. We're seeing a lot of customers that can't even run their lines. So, when they go to talk about ROI and things like that, it's not just, can you, reduce a head count so we can take these people and move them to other places where, potentially automation, hasn't gotten to yet. They can't even get people in the door to run the line. So they're just shutting them down. As far as automation goes in the current climate, plants have limited space, like you said, really, the food industry just brought in people to, fix that issue. If they needed to run faster or they needed to run more, they would just put more people on the line. They could squeeze them together. With a lot of the, post-pandemic challenges, they're trying to space workers out. They're trying to give them better working conditions. But really, plants just have a limited space. So it's, how can automation change to be able to fit into these spaces? Basically, if you have 4 operators standing around a line, 2 on each side, our customers are asking us, can you build something that fits in that space? That's the only space we have. And there are some automation, companies that can do that. And there are some that, you have to have a football field to be able to fit their product in, and then at that point, if you're trying to, reroute lines or change things around, that can get very expensive. Some of the demand that's going up helps our customers be able to, cope with that expense. But, some small and medium providers, processors, they don't have that option. They just have labor and they know that they can't get it. And, to be able to fill their orders, they need to automate. And really, as I kind of touched on too, some of the automation integrators are trying to fit in smaller spaces, but it's taken time. You really need to look at products that are on the market now to be able to, fit in small spaces, automate in small spaces, just singulate a line in a very, cramped space. And the challenges we come into, as I was talking about singulating, products are in a pile, they're overlapping, they're hanging out. A lot of the older automation, you're going to see, you need a long distance. You're going to have vibrating conveyors, singulating conveyors to try to get product into a line where a robot can pick it, or even some form of mechanical automation can, pick the product up and place it into a cooling tunnel, into a package. And again, just the limited space can be a challenge, and then if you do identify a piece of equipment that they're like, hey, this is great, this will work in our line, especially if you're doing primary handling, it's got to be a wash down. It's going to get the water, the caustic chemicals. It's going to get, inspected every night. It's going to get taken apart every night. Can it handle that heavy wash down, those heavy chemicals, and will it stand up to that for years? I know that's been a challenge, in the past, and I would say companies are really, striving to try to get their products to be that, IP67, IP69K, variety of products where it can handle the wash down. But, then it's still what materials are they using, that can handle the chemicals. So, the other challenge we really see in automation is, there's lots of varying products. Customers have a high mix a lot of times, and that can be very challenging as well. So then you have to rely on cameras, or even, again, go back to people to be able to singulate, and that creates a challenge. So really, it's, can you deal with, in the current climate, can you deal with a small space, products that's piled on top of itself, can handle the wash down, and can you handle a high mix? Because, customers that, only have a limited number of lines to be able to run all their products on. So I believe just after that kind of short discussion, that brings us to our first polling question.
All right, and I just want to make a quick comment here. It looks like what I've been seeing is sort of holding true, right? Packaged goods, snacks, prepared meals. We've got a good amount of those on the webinar today, and I think again, as we're starting to see some changes in the economy, that seems to be holding true. So we're seeing that shift from the consumer go from really, again, the high value proteins over to more snack foods, although the demand is certainly still there for some of the other products as well.
And that's something we're seeing a lot too, Harley. We're doing a lot of project with customers that are doing packaged snack sticks and packaged meats and just things that can be sustainable that potentially, like you mentioned before, are maybe a little cheaper for some people in a recession that don't have the extra money laying around to purchase high dollar products.
All right, so yeah, I just want to reiterate, if anyone has any questions, certainly enter them into the question feature. So what does chaotic flow look like? When we talk about chaotic flow in these processing and production lines, it looks about as chaotic as the slide on your screen right now, right? There's just a lot going on. There is product, the product itself has a lot of variability. Its presentation is variable. It could be anything from sort of a single layer of product spread across a belt. It can be product that is, coming down a conveyor in a pile, but it's chaos, right? And managing chaos is always a challenge. So why is it a challenge? Well, I think Heath hit on this a little bit, but traditionally, it takes a lot of people to turn sort of that chaotic flow that you see, your example on the screen here is poultry, but to turn that sort of chaotic flow of, chicken parts into either singulated flow, either going directly to a package or feeding another downstream process, and it takes a lot of floor space, right? There's not generally a lot of floor space available to be able to singulate or sort of regain control of these products once they've been presented in this sort of chaotic, unmanaged flow. And traditional solutions, they can be big. Heath mentioned they can be the size of a football field at times. And with that comes additional maintenance. And again, depending on how you're staffed or if you're having difficulty staffing, it could be very challenging to then maintain that equipment and make sure that it is cleaned properly. So, there's all sorts of different things, but you want to make sure that you can get the product to the package or to the other downstream process. You want to make sure that you can work within the confines of your building in the space that you do have available, and you want to make sure that you do have the means to maintain the equipment and clean it properly, all within your existing footprint or your facility. So I think this brings us to our next polling question. How do you currently manage chaotic flow?
Give folks a couple more seconds.
I would say that's probably a good representation of what we see. You know, some partial automation, you know, in our customers that have, you know, maybe a few machines, or, you know, manually, or, you know, we don't do anything. So when evaluating solutions, you know, it can be a challenge. You know, obviously, you know, having an integrator that's familiar in automation is good. You know, talking with Soft Robotics, you know, they're great at helping evaluate solutions. But what are the things that you should try to look for? So obviously today we're discussing a lot of AI and 3D vision. So kind of the idea with AI and 3D vision, you know, it can help identify individual products in piles or overlapping. You know, 3D AI cameras can handle varying and inconsistent products. You know, obviously everybody's here in the food industry. No two pieces of chicken look the same. No, you know, chicken nuggets look different. You know, even when you come down to hot dogs, you know, there still can be differences and changes. So it's, you know, how can those cameras identify them and be able to, you know, allow robotics or other types of manual automation to be able to pick them? You know, again, with pile picking, you know, with a lot of the AI and 3D vision, it can be done in a very small space. You know, the camera basically sits right next to the robot. So as the product enters, the camera can identify it, and the robot can pick it. You know, new cameras are washed down and hygienically designed. You know, so robots can be as well. And, you know, if you have an experienced integrator, they can make the system very simple and easy to use. You know, again, going back to that, what we touched on at the very beginning, you know, with a lot of inexperienced operators, the interfaces have to be simple. You know, it really has to be just a few buttons to get things running. And, you know, any issues that come up need to be very clearly identified and easy to fix. So, you know, the one thing I would say is, you know, when you're looking at integrators, make sure you get one that has experience doing these things, and they know what they're working on. You know, obviously, I'm not going to promote myself. There's lots of really great integrators out there. Soft Robotics is a great company as well, to talk about any AI cameras and 3D vision. You know, they really are experts in the things they do.
Thanks, Heath. And I just want to take half a step back here to sort of talk about, you know, why are we focused on AI and 3D vision? Well, it's because actually when people are available, for the most part, they can do things really well in a very small footprint, right? The human operator is very good at looking at something, figuring out what they need to do, right? If they need to take a chicken breast off a line and put it to a package, they can very quickly see it, say, I need to pick up this individual piece of chicken breast and I need to put it into a tray. Simple. Humans work their entire lives from sort of infancy, developing these sort of skills that we take for granted. But when we talk about robots, historically, they've been challenged to do any of those same things in the footprint available to them. So we sort of took all this feedback from our customers and all the challenges they were having over the years, and we said, okay, you know, we have to find a way to really bring that human-like element to robots and do it in a way that is in a more compact footprint. So we developed our mGripAl solution, and really capturing the hands, eyes, and brain component of human operators. So first, we have our perception module. This is our 3D vision piece of it. This allows us to look down into a robot's work area and see all the different complexities and dynamics going on. We then have our intelligence module. And really, this is where a lot of that magic happens, and the decision making that people typically do on these lines, we can now apply that to robots. And we also have our soft gripper. This really allows us to adapt to that variability that Heath mentioned, right? There's no two chicken breasts that are exactly the same. When we talk about produce, there is just a number of different shapes and sizes at any given time. There's no two pears that are the same. There's no two apples that are the same. So really, this gives us the human elements of the hands, eyes, and brain, and really apply that to robots. So, you know, when I talk about the human hand, right? It's all about dexterity and being able to handle a product or multiple products with a single hand, but do it delicately and hygienically, most importantly in food, and really do it. I would say this is absolutely critical in the food space. You want to make sure that you do it at high speed, right? Everything in food is fast, so you want to make sure that you can handle products delicately, but also at high rates of speed. So we developed our mGrip gripper solution. The M in mGrip stands for modular, so you can sort of build this out to fit whatever your application needs are or your product needs are. And what we did was we sort of built off of that design, and we said, all right, we're going to sort of further enable this with this mGrip AI solution and really capture that human-like element of hands, eyes, and brain. And I think one of the critical pieces is obviously food safety, right? When you think about what comes in contact directly with the food, well, we have our soft gripper, right? This is an IP69K rated solution. It is hygienic, meaning that it can be cleaned easily. You can do CIP or COP, clean in place versus clean out of place. They can fit in with your standard cleaning regimen. With our solutions, we use food grade materials and stainless steel, food grade Delrin, food grade silicone. But it's important that the items that are in the direct food contact area are all of these things. We manufacture in a GMP. This allows us to be compliant with FDA standards as well as EC 1935. So I want to talk a little bit about what applications are now unlocked with this new technology. Historically, traditional robotic guidance for picking product moving down a conveyor belt, like Heath said, requires you to singulate product upstream of the robot cell. Now, what happens if you do that, but you're going to pick a hot dog and that product moves, right? If that hot dog has a tendency to roll around on a conveyor belt, well, if you put a camera upstream of the robot, you have no idea if it moved from the time it got imaged by that camera to when it got to the robot, potentially resulting in mispicks or damaged product. Our solution that we focus on with our applications are you can continue to flow product down your existing conveyor belt with minimal changes. If you have sort of single layer of product that's all touching and you expect it to roll around, we can handle that. Our solution allows you to just continue to have that process. Now, in poultry, we see a lot of times you get a lot of overlapping product and sometimes piled product coming down a conveyor. We can handle that. We actually put our vision directly in the robot's work area. So as things move around and as we uncover product underneath products that we pick in a pile, we see it in real time, we can adjust for it in real time, and now we can continue to pick down to the bottom of that pile as it's moving. And we can go all the way over to 3D bin picking, right? If you have a tote or bin of product that is generally presented to an operator and that operator is taking out individual pieces and then placing them into a package, we can do the same thing, all in the exact same hardware and software solution. So how do we do what we do, and why is it important? So we utilize something in our software called real-time picking. And this is a combination of really how we position our perception module relative to where the robot's work area is. Instead of looking upstream of the robot, we look directly into the robot's work area. This allows us in real time to adjust for any changes, right? If we are going to pick a product and it rolls, we can actually track that product moving, wait for it to settle into position, and then go and pick it at its new location. This means that we're going to get less mispicks. This means that we're going to get no product damage. This just allows us to make sure that the product stays at high fidelity and gets from where it's being picked to the package every single time. Now, we have the ability to look down across an entire conveyor belt and really track every single individual product on that belt, regardless of whether it's in a pile, single layer, or even partially occluded. Now, another important piece of what we do is what we call intelligent picking. So this is, the example that you see on your screen here. If we have a bunch of products around each other in a tote or on a conveyor, and we want to make sure that we sort of don't disrupt that whole pile, right? Because you don't want to be trying to pick product as it's in motion. We actually just have an algorithm that, we check a box. We understand the geometry of our gripper because it is modular. It's an input to our system. We can then say, okay, position the fingers to have the least amount of interaction with neighboring product. Not just the product that you're picking, but the neighboring product around it. So now you get minimal neighboring product interaction. You're not disrupting that whole pile, waiting for it to settle back into position, which ultimately leads to longer cycle times. So we can minimize cycle times. We can make sure that we minimize any level of neighboring product contact. And we can also take it a step further, right? There is a consumer perception that if you are building a sandwich upside down versus right side up, or you do it inconsistently, that you have a lower quality product. All of our customers, they make high quality products. We want to make sure that they get sort of that full human-like element in decision making of, loading product onto a conveyor belt consistently, right side up versus right side down. Now, this is just one example, but we have the ability to do different sorts of detection for sortation depending on what the system sees. A lot of companies talk about AI and machine learning, and it's sort of an industry buzzword, but what does it actually mean, and what is the value to you as a customer, right? So in the example here, right, we have these various colors of peppers. Now, if you had all these sort of piled on a conveyor, you're trying to use traditional machine vision and traditional machine vision tools, you would say, okay, this is going to be very challenging. I have these sort of, short and fat peppers. I've got these long and skinny peppers, male, female, some with stems, some longer stems than others. How am I going to individually see every one of these as they're coming down a conveyor in a pile or even just out of a tote? Machine learning allows you to understand everything about peppers, all the color variation, all the different shape and size variation, and even if they're partially occluded, you can actually still see and understand that there is a pepper underneath another pepper. This just gives you greater flexibility. If you're building out a stoplight pepper pack, you can pick out all of your individual colors because, again, we can classify and sort based on different things within the product. So we can understand, is this product red? Is it yellow? Is it green? Are these, is this a chicken breast versus a chicken drumstick? So on and so forth. But machine learning really gives you the power to go after and solve these applications because you understand every single thing about the variation that might come with this product. This leads us to our next polling question. So what hurdles are most impacting your adoption of automation and robotic solutions?
Give everyone about 10 more seconds.
Really interested to see the results of this one because all these are things that we hear all the time from our customers. I think you probably get a lot of the same, Harley.
Yeah, I was looking for the D, all of the above answer on here.
Yep, floor space. So, again, a lot of the stuff that I've kind of covered, and I think we're going to talk about here in a second again as well. So some proven solutions that'll work, again, with that last polling question, like I said, floor space being the challenge, inside as a company, we really like scale robots. There's, so for people that aren't familiar, so there's kind of like three different kinds of robots. So you have scaras, which are a 4-axis robot. You know, if you think about the joint of your arm, they're only gonna, you know, they're gonna kind of move in and out like the joint of your arm. You have a 6-axis robot that would go all the way up to your shoulder. And then you have Delta robots, which kind of look like the spider robots. All of them work great for different applications. When we're trying to fit product into a small space, we like Scara robots. We can fit 4 Scara robots in the space that you can put 1 Delta robot. So it really, you know, alleviates some, or gives you the opportunity to do some different products and be able to come up with some new applications and make things work. You know, we prefer Stabile robots. You know, they're designed to go on the primary side, food applications. Their hygienic design one, or their HE model is. It's hygienically designed, so there's no flat spaces, there's no harborage points, there's no places for water to sit and build up. They have a patented coating that is designed to hold up to the caustic chemicals that are going to get, or you know, robots are going to get sprayed down with every day. You don't have to bag them, you don't have to cover them up. You just spray them down like the rest of the equipment. You know, they work really well. You know, and adding a 3D AI camera to a Scara, you know, again, the robot can sit in a small space like Harley talked about. Your camera is going to sit right in that robot work area where it's going to work and move around, and it's going to work really well. You know, one thing I will comment on, you know, while we're kind of talking about proven solutions, you know, one thing I think people get too caught up on sometimes is if a robot is IP67 or IP69K. So when you're looking at those types of applications, or you're looking at those ratings, that just talks about water. So obviously, if you're just spraying water on your product, it will be able to handle that. Whether it's IP69K or IP67, anything in the food industry is that rating will be able to handle all the water. The other thing you need to look at is the caustic chemicals that you're using. You know, a lot of customers say, oh, this is IP69K, and it is. You can submerge it in water for 30 minutes and it's great. But the minute you put caustic chemicals on it, it's going to start eating those components up. So, you know, make sure you're looking at, you know, can it handle the caustic chemicals? Can it handle the wash down process? Not just if it's waterproof.
Yeah, so I'll dive into a little quick transition over to some applications just to, you know, give some customers examples of, you know, what they can do now, right? So this is an example of handling chicken flats and drumettes. You know, a lot of the time these are going to go directly to a foam tray or to a thermoformer pocket. The typical presentation of this product is they're just flowing down chaotically to a human operator station, or in this case, to robots, right? You can actually now use a robot to individually see each and every chicken flat or drumette here, grab it and place it to the package, and you can do it at high rates of speed, right? Chicken flats and drumettes, these are slippery, slimy. We can handle these at rates around 55 to 60 picks per minute. When we talk about bratwurst, these present different challenges than some of the poultry products. Generally, these are falling onto a conveyor coming out of a stuffer. They get nested together. They are also slippery and slimy. And you really want to make sure here that you are not damaging or marking neighboring products. You want to make sure that you're getting these delivered to a package at high rates of speed. We can handle something like bratwurst at around 60 picks per minute. We talk about hot dogs. Hot dogs, whether they are fresh or frozen, we can handle them. The typical process here is, you know, these get manufactured. They end up, you know, really going from one conveyor transfer to another before they ultimately get to, again, a pack out station. And because of how they go from, you know, conveyor to conveyor, they generally waterfall from one to the next. They end up in a chaotic presentation. In a lot of cases, you'll see piles of hot dogs just coming down a conveyor. We can handle that pile. You know, send it on down. You don't have to change anything. If we're handling fresh hot dogs, we're talking at picking those at around 70 picks per minute per robot. And when we start talking about frozen product, because they have more structure, we can actually handle them at higher rates of speed, right? There is a certain amount of force that you can apply in a rotation to a hot dog. before it starts to look like a piece of like a wet noodle. So you want to make sure that you aren't damaging the product in any way, but in general, we can move hot dogs really fast.
Harley, have you ever seen a hot dog explode when you move it too fast?
I will say when we go 100+% on a robot, we've seen it with Twinkies. We've seen some fracture lines in some of these products. Yeah, things start to liquefy when you start moving it at a certain rate of speed. So chicken drumsticks, right? We look at tray packing of chicken drumsticks. These are slippery, they're slimy. You have skin sometimes pulled up over the muscle. Sometimes it's more down towards the skinny bone end. We can identify each and every one of these as they're coming down a conveyor belt, touching, overlapping, piled. We can pick these even as they're, when they slide around, we can set sort of new pick locations for the robot once they settle into position. And, you get a little sort of image there of our software interface showing you that, you can actually individually see each one of these drumsticks as they enter the robot's work area. We can pick and pack these at around 70 picks per minute. So we talk about sweet corn. Sweet corn's another one of these round cylindrical food objects that we find in this world. There happens to be a whole bunch of them, whether you're in prepared foods, whether you're in produce, and whether you are just in some of the proteins. They have a tendency to roll around or shift and move, and having the ability to track those in real time is incredibly important. Corn is no different. Corn has a little bit more structure to it, so it has more of a tendency to roll around. Us looking down directly into the robot's work area enables us to pick these as they move around and settle into position. We can identify and choose the best grasp location. We can choose to pick furthest downstream product first, or if you have piles of product, we can choose to pick, top of the pile down to the bottom first. And it's really powerful in that sense. We can handle sweet corn at rates greater than 75 picks per minute without damaging the product in any way. So with that will lead us into our question and answer portion of this. So make sure that you do enter in any questions that you do have.
Thank you, Harley and Heath. Don't forget to submit your questions via the question feature tab in the GoToWebinar toolbar. Looks like we have one. It's fairly generic. Where's a good place to start?
That's that can be a great question, Luke. I would say, as an integrator, reaching out to an integrator, you can reach out to Soft Robotics. But I would say the best thing to be able to do is know your line rates, know your speeds that you want to run. We have a lot of customers that reach out to us. I guess even if you don't know that, obviously, we can help you with that. Soft Robotics can help, but I think a lot of the challenges that we get when a customer reaches out is, we ask them like, okay, what rates of speeds do you want to run at? How much product do you want to get through? How much product are you running now? And a lot of customers, don't know those things. So having those numbers, where you are and where you want to go, I think really can make a difference. But reach out to Insight Solutions, Soft Robotics. Any of us would be able to help you get started and start looking at your line and figuring out what we can help with.
Yeah, I think that's great. We can certainly help guide you through understanding what information is needed for us to evaluate an application. I think a lot of people don't necessarily know up front, to your point, Keith, and we can certainly help guide them.
Great, thank you. Looks like we have another one. What are the types of ROI that y'all are seeing on average?
Harley, you want to take that one first? You got me too.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'll take a quick stab at it. I think it's interesting because customers are looking at ROI a little bit differently these days than maybe they used to. It's not always just about, hey, can I replace FTEs, or can I increase my throughput? It's also about, hey, is there a way that I can increase yield? If I can increase yield another 0.5%, that makes a big difference when you're packaging or producing millions of products every week, every month, every year. So I think the the ROI conversation gets a little bit broader nowadays than it ever had. I'll say pre-pandemic. There's sort of the world we lived in pre-pandemic and now, but I think the conversation is a little bit more broad, right? If you can't meet consumer demand, that's a problem. I know some of our customers are struggling to ramp up their automation at this point to help meet that customer demand.
I would absolutely agree with that. I think some of the really great paybacks that we see with our customers are when they can increase, their, the product, the amount of product that they're running through their equipment. One thing too, I'd like people to think about too, because I know everybody just wants to reduce, their head count or be able to move those people to a different part of the plant that, or maybe a different line so they can run it. I think a lot of people get wrapped up in the idea that if you've got 8 people on the line and you put automation in there, I need to remove all 8 people. Like, the only way this project is successful is if all 8 people are be able to move somewhere else. Sometimes with how products move and how they're shaped and just how they interact with the equipment, you might need to leave one person there at the end to, maybe hit a couple little things to clean it up. And in my mind, and what we try to express to our customers is that's still a successful project. You just took 7 people off of that line and moved them somewhere else. Yes, maybe there's one person there to, touch up a few things and make sure things are lined up like they're supposed to be. But you've just reduced that amount of work and potentially could make your throughput faster. So, just different ways to think about it. I think customers get too caught up sometimes with they have to remove everybody off the line, and that's not always the case.
Thank you, Heath and Harley. Well, we are at time. And so I want to remind everybody that if we didn't get your question, Harley or Heath will answer it directly via email at the conclusion of the webinar. So thank you, Harley and Heath, again. Here's their contact information if you have any questions for them. A recording of this webinar will also be shared with everybody tomorrow, along with a brief survey. So we would ask that everyone enjoy the recording, and also please take a moment and fill out that survey. And thank you for your time today.